It's time for us to look at our top stories. Now, armed men in Nigeria have freed 11 out of more than 60 passengers of an Abuja-Kaduna train who were abducted in late March, bringing the number of released passengers to 14. A member of the negotiation team, Tokor Mamos, made the announcement, adding that the released victims include 6 females and 5 male passengers, and that they were set free in the Kidanda forest where they were picked up.
According to Mamo, the armed men had initially agreed to free all the female passengers who were kidnapped. Abuja Bureau Chief Amadine Uyi joins us now from the nation's capital for more updates. Amadine, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Sergey.
Good to see you. Now, let's talk about, this news story. 11 abductees have been released. What do we know about their release so far?
Right now, from the position of government, not much has come out. As of yesterday, we heard that government was supposed to hand over those released back to their families. But at the dying minute, we are following up on that story. It was meant to be done through the Ministry of Transportation. But at the dying minute, they declined, and the event was rescheduled and postponed indefinitely. We are still following up to know if the number actually is 11 and if the statement from Mamu is actually true. But what we have observed from this event is that though federal government has kept mum, there have been some sort of negotiation ongoing underground. And when this kind of things happens, it's usually not brought to the public until results have come out. There are claims that the terrorists, we also hear that they do not belong to the Boko Haram sect, they belong to the Ansaru sect, which was really dominant around the north central area of Nigeria, mainly around Kogi and the federal capital. But so far, so good. We are hoping that when the families will be released, more information will come out.
Okay, Amadine, we'd like you to verify if there was any ransom paid. Do you have any idea if there was any ransom paid for the victims? Also, do we have an idea what their terms and conditions were? We did report in the news a certain time when they said they didn't want money and what they wanted was in return release of some of their children who have been held in captivity. So what would you say were the terms? Do we have information about that yet?
The terrorists have not been shy in stating out their terms. They've never been shy about it. They said they want several members of their families who were in the hands of the military. They released, especially their children. And several people have said that several sources from government have identified that these children, some of them have been found to really be in the custody of the military. They are in IDP camps but being supervised by the military. The terrorists have not been shy to say that is their term, but from history we find out that most of the time these kind of negotiations don't go on without money. No matter the terms they give, there is still money that is being released. Remember the Bank of Agriculture who was released, where the terrorists came out to say that he was released based on humanitarian conditions. But information that started trickling out later came out to say that his family parted with the sum of about 100 million naira. So while we believe that the negotiations will be in twofold, while they are reeling out their demands, insisting that they want their children returned back to them, they will also be speaking and urging the family members or the government to pay some kind of ransom.
All right. Well, one of the things that we spoke about this morning in the news on the newspapers is another 50 persons that were reportedly kidnapped at a wedding in Zamfara. So, I mean, that basically has increased the number of persons who are in captivity that the government still needs to find a way to set free. But let's talk about the remaining victims of the Abuja-Kaduna attack. Is the government in touch with them? Are there still ongoing negotiations to ensure that every single person is released?
Now, this information which has just come out shows that government is in touch and there's still some sort of negotiation ongoing. remember that as long as those terrorists remain in the hands of this, as long as those kidnapped victims remain in the hands of these terrorists, number one, government is losing money because it cannot resume the Abuja-Kaduna train service. The families have threatened fire and brimstone, saying they will disrupt the service. Remember that that facility was actually constructed via a $500 million loan from China. So government has to pay within a speculated period of time. So what we are hoping is that this gets resolved and it does not affect Nigeria.
We seem to be losing connection with Ahmadine, but thank you very much for the update. Do we still have Ahmadine here with us, or is he gone? Okay, it does seem that we do not have connection. We, of course, will be following up with that story, a very important story there. And you know, Salge, it's important to have these conversations. Yesterday, the president, in his Democracy Day speech, did address the fact that they will do everything, the government will do everything within their power to release those in captivity. It'll be interesting to see how the people of how Nigerians feel about that, whether that has sort of reinforced some form of confidence in the government's ability to go through this.
Okay. Ahmadine, can you hear us now?
Yes, clearly.
All right, please go ahead.
Now, I say it will be in the interest of the country to see that government quickly resolves this issue, because that facility was gotten through a $500 million loan from China. Is not in government or Nigeria's interest to see that that service is not running. So the terrorists were strategic. So government.
Okay. The connection with Ahmadine Uyi seems to be a little shaky this morning, but I think that's most of the conversation that we can have with regards the Abuja-Kaduna train kidnapped victims. You know, the story says 11 more of those victims were released this morning, and of course it's an ongoing conversation, hoping that the Nigerian government does all that is possible to ensure that every single one of these victims is released. And there you can see pictures of the train and some of those persons who have been in captivity for a while. We also spoke about Zamfara State, where it's reported that another 50 persons were kidnapped at a wedding over the weekend. And so, you know, there's so much more of these conversations that need to be had.
Where is safe? Where can you go to and not be afraid or stand the risk of being kidnapped or shot at?
It's completely insane. And, you know, and also we need to change tactics, you know, with regards dealing with kidnapping in Nigeria, because it doesn't seem to be working. You know, while you're getting 2 out, they're taking another 20. While you have another 11 freed, 50 are taken. And so it means that they've seen this as a, you know, very lucrative business.
It is.
If one person is paying 100 million naira, if you remember the Archbishop or the prelate who spoke about, you know, paying 100 million naira for his release. And I said it over and over that if a kidnapping gang, if a terrorist group gets 100 million naira, you know, for one person, do you understand the amount of ammunition that they can buy and how much more power they have with that amount of money? They will, of course, continue to do worse, and that gives credence and gives, you know, the mindset to more of these kidnapping groups to go ahead and get into that business, because it seems to be very lucrative. So, do we, as a country, do our security agencies need to change tactic completely and become more deliberate or more ruthless with dealing with kidnappers? We can't continue to negotiate forever.
But it's easier said when one doesn't have one's family member in the den of kidnappers.
I completely understand that.
We hear the United States, for example, say, no, the United States doesn't negotiate with terrorists, we don't do this. But it's easier said than done, especially when one has loved ones there. We do hope not to find ourselves in that situation, right?
Well,
but it's,
I agree with that.
You know, we really, really do hope that the president in his Democracy Day speech specifically said that the government will do all that it can to ensure that we do not have situations of insecurity, but we hope that, you know, the government follows through with their promises.